Hello and welcome. My name is Fidia Smart, futurist employment lawyer, public speaker and coach. And today I'm going to tackle the very difficult issue of George Floyd's killing, the Black Lives Matter movement and the world of work. On the 25th of May, George Floyd was killed in Minnesota where an officer knelt on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. This has led to a groundswell of anger and rage in not only America but across the world. We saw only a few days ago that the Black Lives Matter movement had a protest in Bristol which led to the removal of a statue of a well-known Bristolian slave owner. Now, I'm breaching one of the taboos that no one's ever told me was a taboo, but I've always felt it was, which is to discuss race in the workplace. I've often seen on social media and other places that people say that we've become obsessed with race and that, racism would be done away with if we weren't always talking about it. Now, I don't subscribe to that belief, but I think that even those who do, the fact is that there are many people being extremely vocal about this issue and how it's affecting them. I mean, on a personal level, since his murder, I haven't been able to think about anything else. And I've had to refrain from my usual employment law tweeting and posts because it's just left me feeling bereft. And I've had to take some stock and really think about what I wanted to say in the issue and how for many in the Black community, it feels personal. It's not somebody that I didn't know, but, that could be a family member of mine. And it's not confined to a US issue because there have been a number of incidents in this country of Black people and police custody and them dying. Joyce, I think her name was Joyce Reed and Mark Duggan, to name but a few. And then also the issues surrounding the police's handling of the Stephen Lawrence's killing. It's to the extent where CIPD issued a statement not too long ago saying that HR professionals needed to be aware of the impact this would be having on certain members of staff, particularly those from a Black ethnic minority. Brands are talking about it. Yorkshire Tea and PGT got into a Twitter spat with someone who was thanking them for not getting involved in hashtagging about Black Lives Matter. And they said, actually, we've just been trying to think about how to talk about it in a cohesive and appropriate way. So if you're a critic of it, please don't drink our tea. So how does this all relate to my being an employment lawyer and the world of work? Well, with the whole focus on employee engagement and bringing your authentic self to work, people are no longer willing to avoid the discomfort of the issue of race. I'm about to give a talk next week about the ethnicity pay gap. And despite having race relations legislation in this country since the 70s, there are still a disproportionate number of BAME applicants who are unsuccessful unless they anglicise their names, and the statistics to show that, or the fact that those from a Black background will earn 7.7% less than their white peers, even if they're of the same educational level or above. And I think part of why this whole discussion about Black Lives Matter has kind of come to the boil is because despite there having been legislation for a long time, despite there having been unconscious bias training, there hasn't been the kind of progress that people were hoping. And I think in part it's because of this desire to avoid this uncomfortable discussion. And to me, we now feel like we're at the River Rubicon, and I've spoken to a number of friends, and the discussions that I would normally be having when somebody dies, a Black person dies in these circumstances, would normally be confined to family and close friends. But I'm now finding strangers are reaching out to me to ask my views on it. I belong to a WhatsApp group with mums who are predominantly white, raising their concerns about, are they educated enough on issues of race? And I don't think that you can disinfect the workplace of racism by not talking about race. And all of these issues will obviously impact the world of work. Now, I think in part of why this has really seemed to have hit everyone quite deeply is because most of us are on lockdown or restricted, and we're able to really consume the 24/7 news cycle. But I think when we get back to work, people seem to be wanting real change. Employers are being held to task. Employers are being asked, what is your statement on this issue? The same way that you might have a statement when a terrorist attack occurs or there's some other kind of tragedy, people are now saying, yes, I want to see that my employer aligns with my values, that the equal opportunities policy that talks about it being an equal opportunities employer is not just mere puff, and that they are actually trying to live the values that they're espousing. And I think that that is being recognised by, there seems to be a coalescing of forces that are going to mean that the issue of race cannot be just kept to the fringes of polite discussion, and decision makers in organisations are going to be taken to task. I've already seen a lot on social media of businesses that have posted Black Lives Matter comments to then be subjected to an avalanche of criticism by Black former and existing employees saying, well, why did you treat me so abysmally? Why is your pay gap so huge, etc., etc. And I think an employer that really wants to espouse the views of true diversity and inclusion will be using this as an opportunity for reflection. What is the composition of your board or your senior leadership? And are you monitoring that? Because what you don't monitor, you can't manage. And particularly for a business in London, we're in such a diverse city, if you find that the complexion of your business isn't diverse, then I think that there is a need for a discussion about that. And how do we get from George Floyd's killing to that? Well, the issue is that a lot of people from a BAME background, and I'm specifically talking about Black people in, for this context, feel that there hasn't been enough movement, that in this country where, particularly in London, which is such a diverse city, there is real racial disparity. And instead of simply just saying, okay, well, let's bring in legislation to monitor the pay gap or have the Park Review to look at board composition, people are saying, no, if you genuinely believe the things that you have in your policies, we now want to see action. And I think where that takes us is that it's going to be leading to a lot of uncomfortable conversations. You know, this is my maybe 7th attempt of doing this video because it's uncomfortable. You know, I don't know. I cannot be held out as a spokesperson for my race because I can't speak for everybody's feelings on this. There is a lot of commonality when I speak to my Black friends about the experiences they've had navigating the world of work, but I can't be a spokesman. Nor can I expect for my employer or for people who haven't had to deal with the issues of race to know exactly what to say. People will make mistakes, and I think if we stop suggesting that being a racist is a morally wrong issue, and racism can be a combination of factors, we will perhaps provide the space and the environment for there to be true discussion about diversity, inclusion, bias, and why in the 21st century we are still having to have the same discussions that some of our parents and grandparents were having. Now, I would really love to get your thoughts and insights on this. This has been a very hard video to make, but I felt it important that I stood and used my platform to talk about an issue that has had a really massive effect on me and will continue to do so. And I encourage others to be having these discussions. How can we make workplaces truly reflect what a lot of the policies state that they should be? I welcome your thoughts as always. Thank you.